Tyler Shough on Mina Kimes show. Ladies and gentlemen, the Tyler Shough PR tour continues. This guy does more videos than I do. It is insane. Whoever is telling Tyler Shough what to do is a genius, because this is how you do it. Get out in front of the cameras, associate yourself with the New Orleans Saints. People will see you as the face, the guy of the team. They'll believe in you, whatever. This is smart. This is very, very smart. I'm not sure what the hell he's going to do whenever training camp starts, and he can't just do all these interviews and stuff. So, all right, here we go. Let's go ahead and listen. Mina, Tyler Shough, and the face of the franchise.
Our off-season series of interviewing players in the NFL. Thus far, it has only been veterans, and it's been primarily defense. This is my first rookie interview, offense interview, quarterback interview, somebody I loved watching ahead of the draft, somebody who's about to have an extremely interesting summer. You're already having an interesting summer, but when this comes out, it's about to get really interesting. Tyler Shough, welcome to the show.
A lot of people, forget that I interviewed Robin Roberts twice, interviewed Nancy Pelosi, who's a former crime reporter for the Pulitzer Prize-winning newspaper. So I know what it's like to interview, all right?
Thank you, Mina. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
So I alluded to this. This is your first NFL offseason, and you're on the precipice when this comes out of training camp, which is when things going to get really heated. But I was wondering if you've already had kind of a welcome to the NFL moment.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think for me, going into OTAs and getting snaps with Eric McCoy and seeing his presence within the huddle, cussing guys out for just a lack of effort. He was talking to me, jumping me for, hey, make sure you're getting back out of the center because I'm delivering it. And he's a taller guy, so I've never really had a taller center. That was like the first, I better get out of that center really, really fast. And I played all last year with Louisville under center, but I think it's a different little level when.
Do not get this mistaken, ladies and gentlemen. When Eric McCoy went down last year in that godforsaken Eagles game, the offensive line went to hell because he's not out there. And I don't mean because he's not playing center, because he's not orchestrating that offensive line. He's not calling things. So then all of a sudden, someone else has to call him. Then all of a sudden, Cesar Ruiz is looking around like, okay, well, who's going to tell me? Like Trevor Penix looking around. All these people are looking around like, who's going to tell me what to do? Now, I'm not saying, Eric McCoy is telling them what to do on every single second of every single play, but people I don't think they put as much. They don't understand the impact, how losing someone like McCoy, an on-field leader, when it comes to protection packages and whatever else, that was enormous. And there was a lot of times when you're looking around and the offensive line is just, they're all over the place. They're lost. They're rudderless. On top of that, once he goes down, the offensive line was just players who had never played together. Connor McGovern's in there, Shane Lemieux's in there, Lucas Patrick's in there. These players are, not only have they not played together, they haven't even been on the Saints together. So
the way that ball's coming and you got to get going. That was a cool moment just because on the same side of the ball. And then going, I think, in defense, you got Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reed playing safety. And a lot of times when you're out there, you're like, you don't really know what they're doing because they're such veteran players that they're disguising everything. So you just kind of have to go through your reads a little bit.
Yeah, Brandon Staley, now the defensive coordinator for folks who mix that. That's a defense that does have a lot of disguise. And obviously Matthew's a really versatile player. I'm glad you mentioned Eric McCoy because I feel like he's slept on. He's one of the best centers in the NFL. And the Saints losing him last year, I really think was so brutal and really was so hard for them. But it puts them in position to get you. And that's another question I wanted to ask you is if you had any idea in the pre-draft process that it was likely you would end up in New Orleans.
No. I don't think there was anything resounding. Like I had a gut feeling. There was some inklings for sure. After my visit there and talking to the coaches and kind of that whole process, it kind of went silent and for good reason. And I was like, all right, this could be good. And I had a great feeling leaving there just with the whole culture of the team and the staff and the city. And I was just like, that would be an ideal scenario even before Derek retired. But yeah, what an unbelievable, opportunity.
A little bit of a cut there. You always wonder what was said for a little bit of a jump cut.
Just to get there, and I've loved it every second. I got a lot to grow and continue to go.
were they in like the top 3 when you're, you know, and your family are sitting around the dinner table, like not where you want to go, but where you guys were like, what's going to happen? Where am I going to end up? Like, would you were in the top 3?
Oh, 100%. It was. I'm not joking. It was the top one for sure.
Oh, okay.
Now, he said that multiple times, and I don't blame him, or I'm not surprised, because when you think about it, think about all the other, you know, teams that are interested in taking a quarterback early, all right? And you look at the Saints, and you look at the coaches he was talking to, it's just quarterbacks, right? Like, it's just a bunch of quarterbacks. And that is different. I'm not saying the Buccaneers were, you know, even talking to quarterbacks, but that's different than going and talking to Todd Bowles. You know, like being in the room with quarterbacks who are speaking your language, and the Saints have a ton of them. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, especially what Kellen just did. You know, you're talking to a guy who just won the Super Bowl. You know, so I'm not surprised at all that a quarterback prospect, especially one who is playing at Louisville already under kind of this pro-style situation, I'm not surprised at all that Tyler would have circled New Orleans as a premier destination. Not and then just as a human being, you do factor in like geography, and you do factor in like where am I going, and going to New Orleans is one of the biggest destinations in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't say the other teams, but the other teams that needed a quarterback, really, I guess. But it was
it's not that mysterious, I guess.
Yeah, you know, but the Saints were extremely up there because they were on my last visits, and it was an unbelievable experience. And just talking with Kellen, he was complete calm, cool, and collected, and just being able to learn
Kellen's
from him,
the man.
you know, thus far has been amazing.
He's a very chill guy, kind of like unusually so. I don't know how many NFL coaches you met during the process, but I'd say he's a little bit more like quiet, even keel, maybe than some.
I think it's a testament of like a lot of people, coaches, and you know, want to be the smartest dude in the building or act like they are. He doesn't, and I think he actually is the smartest dude in the building.
I love that.
I mean, that's the greatest possible. That's the greatest possible combination. Think about it. We went from dunce number 1, Pete Carmichael, and dunce number 2, Dennis Allen, to probably the smartest guy in the room, you know, as our head coach, and another incredibly smart guy, and Brandon Staley. And then you look at their staffs, you look at everything. Like this is about to be a whole different New Orleans Saints.
And it shows.
Were you taken aback when you heard the news about Derek retiring? And because like you have one vision of yourself perhaps and what this year is going to look like and what the summer is going to look like. Did that vision change, or did you know that it was a possibility from the beginning?
I wouldn't say the vision changed as far as my preparation and me coming into that quarterback room situation and what I can bring to the table. And obviously it would have been a great opportunity to learn from him and being able to grow that relationship. But for me, I think that's why, you know, I was here, just because of my experience and what I've been through, and knowing that there's a sense of urgency and that window of opportunity is small, and I'm going to go do everything I can to go take advantage of that. So it really fired me up more than anything. And I just, you know, it didn't change as far as the process of it, but it was more just, all right, let's do it.
Undeniably puts a bigger spotlight on camp and the preseason.
Oh, yeah, I would assume, like he said, it probably didn't change the overall vision, but it definitely puts, you know, takes the training wheels off. Now it's like, damn, I have a straight line to starting
season in the summer for you. You talked about Kellen Moore. I'm really interested actually in seeing what he calls for you when you get a chance, or whoever this season, because you know this. He's had such an interesting career in the NFL as a play caller. He's called for plays for such different quarterbacks and called such different offenses. Yeah. Going from Dak Prescott, who's more of like a traditional Peyton type of, you know, pocket quarterback, supercomputer, to Herbert, who you know, we'll talk about him in a second, in Los Angeles. And then with the Eagles, totally different offense, completely different scheme, all of that.
Yeah.
What can you tell me thus far about what you think the 2025 Saints offense is going to look like?
So far, it's been a little bit of everything, which has been the coolest part. I think what I've seen, at least watching the film-wise, is that offense kind of grow and continually go like this from when even he was playing in Dallas with Dad coaching him, to taking what they did with Herbert and kind of having that skill set. I think my skill set would be more comparable to Herbert's.
Yeah, I would assume. I mean, they're very, very similar players. And I also think it's interesting when you look at Kellen Moore, you know, his time in Dallas, I think Kellen was a little pass happy, and I think at times, that's when the NFL was kind of experimenting with this idea of like, well, why run the ball for 3 yards if you can throw the ball for 3 yards? Because you have a higher chance of an explosive play when you throw the ball. So the NFL at that time was really kind of replacing runs with passes. And that's when we really saw that shift. Kellen was on the forefront of that. And I think a lot of people were critical of him in Dallas for being way too pass happy. Philadelphia was the opposite, right? Philadelphia is another shift in the NFL, and they're going back to running the football. Then, of course, the offensive line, he has Saquon, and Jalen Hurts is a completely different player. But I think this version of Kellen that the Saints are getting is a version of Kellen that we have not seen before. I don't think it's fair to say, well, this offense is going to look like Philly because we don't have what Philly has. And I don't think it's fair to say, well, this offense will look like Dallas because I don't think Kellen Moore is the same coach as he was in Dallas.
And Dax, and then also continuing to grow even with some RPO and utilizing the quarterback in the run game with Jalen. And I think he saw the importance of that and just in general having that strong run game.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a little bit of everything, which is a good thing. And I think we have the ability to do a lot of different things and put a lot on our plates, but also allow us to go play free in a system that kind of complements everybody. So that's been the exciting part so far. But, I also don't know what it's exactly going to look like. It's going to change every single week.
So what I'm hearing is they're not going to tush push you 10 times.
I don't know.
Have you practiced it?
I have. I've done it in the past. I don't know about their version of it though. That hasn't come up in the installs yet. I think that's more down the line. But we've got about everything else in.
Can't think of a worse thing than the tush push with Shough. Now, the tush push with Hunter Dekkers.
Glad you mentioned the RPOs because I went back and I looked at my notes from watching your college tape ahead of the draft. Mm-hmm. And the thing I kept writing down was arm talent, which is, of course, different from just pure arm strength. You have a strong arm. But what really jumped out to me was just the creativity of your throwing, different arm angles.
Yeah, a lot of arm slots, arm angles. He can – I mean, again, we've talked about that with him moving to his left and the way he can, I'm not going to say just sidearm throws, but he is creative. He is very creative when it comes to extending the play.
On RPOs, off-platform throws, flipping your hips, rolling to the left. A touchdown against Notre Dame looms in my mind. So I was wondering if you feel that there's a way to call the offense that plays to that skill set, the uniqueness of your throwing ability.
Yeah, I think, for me, just the ability to get it out quick and find answers and be more of a point guard, but also extend plays when needed is crucial, obviously, at that, the next level. And playing in 5 different systems in offense where there were true RPOs or spread or air raid and pro style, I've had in all those into the different verbiages and different ways to do it. So, and we've had that in OTAs and in camp so far. So I feel like I'm extremely well prepared if I can kind of pull back to my base knowledge. Okay, I've ran this. Okay, it's just called this. And, it's never anything brand new. So, yeah, hopefully we can continue to utilize it all and just stress the defense in any way we can.
I'm always on the go.
Oh, my God, Capital One, what are we doing here? Generally, I think young quarterbacks are much better when the play caller moves the pocket. Rattler was really good last year when you move the pocket. And Tyler is so good on the move. He's so good rolling out, especially to his left. I understand they're going to want to keep him in the pocket, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if at the beginning it's a lot of that. I mean, Jared Goff famously with the Rams. There was one game where Sean McVay called like 13 straight play-action bootlegs because it's just easier. It's just easier it makes the entire play easier because all of a sudden now the quarterback is on the move. They don't have to worry about the pocket. They don't have to worry about the pocket breaking down. And also, everything's in front of them, right? When you're rolling out, now the bad part is that the more you roll out, the more you are limiting the field. The more you can't roll out and also be reading whatever read is on the other side of the field, right? So it shrinks the field. Everything's in front of you. You're already moving, so you don't have to worry about the pressure. And then what happened with Goff is that it created this like levels route concept where you've got a read short, a read intermediate, and a read deep. It's all right there. So it just makes everything so much easier. I think with Shough, if I was Kellen, I would lean into moving him as much as possible. That's why, like, on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and goal or whatever, like a lot of times you see a quarterback get moved. You see the pocket get moved and they slide to one side of the field because the play is so fast. You know, you might as well just get everything in front of you. There's no time to do all the reading like I'm talking about, all the progression. Keep everything in front of you, make the decision, and go. So, but it is good that Tyler can do that because he probably will be asked to do that quite a bit.
I mean, you mentioned the other thing, you were under center, which is really rare now when I'm watching college quarterbacks and I'm thinking about how this maps on to the NFL. It does feel like, okay, these experiences might give you a leg up in terms of not having to really learn, like, you know, you always hear about college quarterbacks coming in and that adjustment, but it doesn't seem like there might be as much of an adjustment for you based on your experiences.
There's always going to be an adjustment. I think no matter how old you are, year 1, 2, continually, I'm going to have to get better, you know, no matter what. I think as far as the verbiage and that, you know, I agree with you as far as that, but I'm throwing to brand new guys, and I don't think anybody in the country runs routes like Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and these guys and Brandon Cooks and the way their ball get off. You know, I think there was a stat that was tweeted out. Like,
that was me. I tweeted that stat, Tyler. I found that.
I do remember that. And I was reading that. I was like, there's no way. And then you get to OTAs. And I'm like,
there you go. A wild stat. 3 of the top 5 receivers league-wide last year in burst. The measures how fast wide receivers are in the first second of their routes were New Orleans Saints, Chris Olave, MVS, and Rashid Shaheed. Eat your heart out, Atlanta Falcons, right?
They can fly.
You might as well not even take a drop because they're already 10 yards down the field.
Yeah. Can you promise to me that you're not gonna have an average at the target of like below 6 yards? I need to see you guys. You got
the Kyler Murray syndrome.
Be pushing that ball downfield with those receivers.
I don't believe we will.
One thing want to ask you about sort of your college career, so interesting and long, and different offenses, different teams. You also had a lot of season-ending injuries. When we talk about age, the reason why we talk about a lot of the draft process is, I think, with the quarterback position. With other positions, it's different. But with quarterback, they say, okay, we know who this guy is. He hit his ceiling in the developmental curve or whatnot. But when I went back and I looked at, like, oh, wait, he's not actually played that much football.
Yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievable that, I mean, this is all the stuff we've talked about for the last 3 months. So I'm sure a lot of you who've been watching all offseason, you're like, damn, we you know, James is just ahead of the game here. We're talking about this in, you know, in May. But yeah, when you look at his games played, it's not that much. And even because he missed a couple seasons just full on, right? So it's a 7-year timeline, but the actual amount played is closer to, you know, Bo Nix or Spencer Rattler or whoever. Like, it's a very unique, because that's why when everyone kept saying, like, oh, he's got so much experience, he's got so many snaps, he's got so much of this, we were saying, like, well, he does not. You know, it's not 7 full seasons. He has a lot of experience being in a program, you know, seeing an offense or whatever, and just that part of it, yes. Actual snaps, actual dropbacks, actual whatever, not that experienced.
I thought maybe we don't know what his, you know what I mean? Like that. I feel like almost more so than age, you got to kind of look at your experience through that lens. Yeah. And I was wondering if that's something you've thought about, and if you thought about levels to your game that haven't been shown in college and can be unlocked in the NFL.
No, I mean, I think that's a really well-researched and intelligent question, because that is something that I was kind of talking about in meetings, is that, you know, my age has been a result of those injuries, and if anything, it's helped me mentally from a on-the-field and coaching standpoint whenever I wasn't playing. But it also, you know, I wasn't starting as many games, so whenever I was starting, there's still that learning, continuous growth. And I think, you know, guys with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold and Josh Allen and, like, all those guys, I feel like I've gotten continually better, including older guys like Stafford. And I feel like I learn so much every single year and continue to get better. I feel like I haven't even tapped into anything, because I've had those time to learn, but I know I'm only going to continue to get better, especially being around these coaches and all my teammates.
I think you got to kind of look at it. The only, like, his experience, whatever, where I would only put that is the maturity part. He is mature because he has gone through so much. Just as you are aging, you get more mature, you see the world differently. A 26-year-old sees the world differently than a 21-year-old, right? And a 30-year-old sees it differently than a 26-year-old. But you really can't look at like what he was doing at Oregon or Texas Tech even, because the college game was so different and the NFL game was so different. It was a completely different style of offense, a completely different style of game than it is now and than it is what he did at Louisville. So, the actual data you can use to try and deduce what kind of a player Tyler Shough is, you almost just have Louisville. And that's really all I look at. Now, you can look at the arm talent. You can look at stuff like that. But you also got to kind of put a circle on that leg injury where you are a different human being mentally and physically after an injury like that. I'm not saying negative or positive, but just the way that you rebuild yourself, the way you rehab, the way you see the game, the way you feel the game, it does change after a significant injury like he had. So I know that there's this 7-year block, but personally, I've shortened it to pretty much what he did at Louisville, and that's it as far as what I think we may be getting in New Orleans.
Do you think the success last year of all of the quote-unquote older rookie quarterbacks, Bo Nix, Jane Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., helped you in the draft process?
I think so. I think it was it was real-time evidence of guys who have kind of been through a lot of adversity, played a lot of football games, and been resilient, and then just come out on top. And it wasn't perfect by any means for any of their seasons and any of their journeys, but I think they have that ability to come in and contribute. And I feel like that's what my strength has been. And that's what I want to do for the Saints, at least, is bring what I know I can do to the table.
Something else that's changing is because of NIL, players are staying more in college and they're playing more in college. Because of that, front offices are valuing all this tape. They're valuing all the data and all the research that they can do on prospects. So if you have a guy like Kelvin Banks, who's got thousands of reps, you highly value that over someone who has a season of reps or half a season of reps or was hurt but has promise or whatever. I think what's happening is a lot of these players, like Anthony Richardson, for example, he had a very tiny bit of tape at Florida. And there was the promise. There was if you can, look what he did in these 6 games. He only has 11 games started, whatever. Yeah, but look at these 5 games. If you can bottle those 5 games up, then all of a sudden, and I think the unknown at one point, a couple years ago, was a valuable thing. Because then you're thinking man, this is an untapped superstar. Now I think it's almost a negative because they're saying man, I don't want to draft this guy, put 3, 4, 5 years into him. He never figures it out and we're hard stuck. Now I think the value is we know what we're getting. We know what we're getting, and not just a quarterback, but you can see how the Saints drafted. The Saints drafted experienced players and players who have proven they can do it, what they're being asked to do. Danny Stutzman, Kelvin Banks, Quincy Riley, Devin Neal, Tyler Shough. These are all guys who are super, super experienced, and there's a lot of tape there. So the days, and this isn't a full, this isn't a binary rule where now you'll never see a young player get drafted, but the days of drafting promise and hope and potential, I think now front offices and coaches want a little bit more of a proven asset.
You mentioned resilience. Obviously, coming back from all of those injuries and coming back stronger is proof positive of resilience. But there's also kind of the on the field aspect of it, which is I wanted to ask you about, how do you, because you're going to get the NFL, you're going to take hits, the likes of which you've never taken.
Oh, yeah.
You're seeing the speed and the size of these guys.
Yeah.
How do you mentally go from, okay, I've had these injuries and they've affected my career, to playing free and being, not being fearful of that sort of contact and pressure at the next level? Yeah,
no, I think you had a really great, almost not like a knock, but a great analysis as far as a fear of contact. And I think my first 2 games, as a human, I was man, it's always in the back of your mind. Coming off of 3 straight injuries, as the first 2 games, I was man, I hope I really don't get injured. I'm going to go out there and just have fun. And then as soon as I kind of started getting out there, I just was screw it. Let's just it's either going to happen or not. Let's just have fun, and that helped me so much mentally, just play free. And I think towards that middle part, end of the year, I'm running the ball more. I wasn't asked to run the ball a lot with Louisville compared to Texas Tech. But for me, it was just a weight off my shoulders, and I think kind of continuing that forward with just playing free, trusting it, and going from there. But
that's what we're going to have to find out is will that translate, and is that a long-term thing? Because there's no doubt. I mean, he just said it. When you come off those injuries, it is in the back of your head. And in the NFL, he is going to get – there's going to be some hits where it's like, whoa, you know, your soul is going to be outside of your body for a second. When he takes those hits, does he remain like, screw it, we're just playing wild and free, or does it start to creep back in? It's not. We will not know. And not to mention, you will get hurt. Players do get hurt. Very rarely does a player go through their entire career without picking up an injury. So what happens the first time he sprains an ankle or breaks a rib or breaks a thumb or something? Like, what happens? How does he bounce back? We won't know until it happens. We won't know until those hits happen, but it's something that we will have to monitor. And any player coming off injuries, you know, you do have to watch and see how that plays. Now, that maturity he has and going through all that, he may be locked and loaded. He may say, you know, it's not part of my process. If it happens, it happens. But if I have the opportunities, I'm playing free. That might just be how he is moving forward.
No, I think one thing you have to just trust your preparation, that your availability is going to be the best ability, and it always has been. And a lot of that stuff is just freakness. So
yeah,
it sucked at the time, but once you realize that, it takes that weight off your shoulders, and you can go from there.
You know, I've heard Penix say something similar. I don't know if you guys ever connected about this, because there are a lot of interesting similarities. Obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with that in the arcs of your college careers and then getting to where you are.
Yeah.
I also think a bone break is very different than like ACLs, because a bone break is way more of a freak thing, and it does heal way easier than an ACL where, now you're in, you know, surgery and physical therapy, and now you got to learn how to run again. And you can feel and see kind of a bone or that structure, right? You can't feel and see the ligaments and the tendons and all that. So I think you're always wondering, like, is it going to go? Is it going to pop? Is it going to whatever? Bone breaking is much more of that, like, you know, blunt force trauma, that like big hit. It's not just we've seen it in the NBA where a player is running down the court, turn, and then boom, their Achilles goes. They don't turn, boom, their femur explodes. You know what I mean? So I think mentally it probably is easier to compartmentalize those bone breaks and not a tendon or a ligament tear. When I was a kid, I was in third grade, I broke my collarbone at recess, and it was just a freak thing. Kid fell on top of me playing kickball, whatever. I've never ever thought about, like, man, I hope my collarbone doesn't break again, you know, like, because it's just a freak bone break. I've never torn a ligament, but if I, you know, rip my bicep, if I tore my bicep or something, I would absolutely, every time I'm curling, every time I would see it, extend or whatever, I would think to my head, like, man, I hope that thing is good to go. So, and that's where Penix and him are a little different with their injury history.
No, for sure. I was at least at the Manning Passing Academy a couple of years ago. I talked with him briefly, but, you know, following that journey, and, you know, I always felt like he had very significant injuries from just a soft tissue, and for him to come back from that was very impressive. And for me, just the bone breaks, and it was just kind of like, you know, you can't really prevent that. So that's just part of football, and just sometimes you just got to trust it, stand in there, whatever it is, and that's something you learn from as the flow of the season continues.
I do want to ask a question about Justin Herbert, because you guys have known each other for a long time. You were his backup at the beginning of your college career. We talked about some of the similarities in your games. Did you have any sense back then that he would be the guy that he is now in the NFL? Do you feel like it was always obvious, or no?
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious just from his preparation, how smart he was, and then physically he was always a freak. I came in a super skinny freshman who was just not anywhere where I needed to be, and seeing that coming in, and I was like, man, I got to get bigger, faster, stronger, and smarter. So it was a wake-up call for sure. And I kind of, once I feel like I got to that level where I could, like, if I was in a competition with Justin Herbert right now, I feel like I could compete. Back then it wasn't. And that's when I kind of knew. I was like, all right, I think I'm ready to go. Him coming into the league and just having that, you know, that base of knowledge and physical talent and coming in and just ripping it. And he was a great resource for me early on about just one, trusting it, talking about defenses and stuff like that. But it's been a cool kind of full circle moment, playing with some of his previous teammates, having Coach Staley, having Coach Moore here, being able to watch his film as somebody who I look up to and want to compare my game to as well.
Well, on that note, is there anyone in the league right now whose game you aspire to? So I'm not saying someone that you're like, I know it's always a tough thing with comps. You don't want to be too Mahomes or whatever. But like, is there anyone that you're watching, you're thinking like, hey, he reminds me a little bit of me, and I love the way he plays, and I'd love to be more like him?
I mean, it might be Justin Herbert.
For me, it's always been watching Stafford growing up, and I think with a lot of
it's a good one.
Just the arm angles and stuff and the toughness.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I've tried to hang my hat on is.
I mean, Stafford can absolutely spin the pill. All-time arm.
It's just being resilient through it.
All-time pill spinner.
Broke my bone, I've tried to play on it, and it was not very smart, but I was like, man, I'll be darned if I come out of this game right now. And what he's done and kind of who he is, and I've always really admired that. And
that is a good
for
one.
sure him.
He's every football player's favorite football player, I always say.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, it's like
he's just stupid. Like, so fun to watch.
Stafford's another one of those guys. I mean, you're talking about like he's almost so consistent that he's boring, but he's a 1% of the 1%. He's a first overall pick. He is a elite arm. And we're talking like he's in that conversation with, as far as just pure arm talent, with the all-time greats. And he himself is an all-time great. It's not like Stafford is a fifth-round pick who figured it out, played at Wake Forest or whatever. Like, nope, he was the man at Georgia. Big-time teams, big-time competition. First overall, was the man his entire career. Always had, like, he's not a hidden gem. He should certainly get his flowers.
I mean, it's amazing. Hopefully this year, whenever we play them in LA, they don't play so good, but that's going to be pretty cool to be able to watch that in person and hopefully get to meet them.
You mentioned the Manning Passing Academy. This is Omaha Podcast, so I have to ask, what is your favorite or your best story about either Eli or Peyton?
Oh man, there's countless. Especially at that camp. There's like every single day. There's am I dreaming right now moments where you're like having dinner, you're drinking some beer with this whole family, and it's like, what are we talking about right now? We're talking about Peyton's places and all the stuff that they've done in the past. Just calls that they've had, the offensive coordinators. I couldn't pinpoint one of them, but it's been amazing.
Have you?
Everything I've ever heard about Peyton, specifically Peyton, is that at the end of the day, no matter how much he wants, whatever he's doing in his like media life, he is a dude's dude. He is a football dude, and he is an absolute lad.com. And I think at the Manning Passing Academy, it's a lot of, I'm not saying this like literally, but it's a lot of like, hey, let's sit around, grab a lawn chair, let's talk football and drink a couple beers. And I think people who don't realize that that's how they are get a little shocked by that. That it's not always this like picture perfect, whatever's being presented PR wise. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, let's just chop it up, talk ball.
You gotten any downtime this summer?
No, he's on every podcast in the world.
I haven't. I've had the rookie meetings, moved into our house. So that was a lot of unboxing and
he's done a food tour of New
Orleans, and then training at the facility the whole time. Been training there. Then now going to be thrown in Oregon with Cooks and all the receivers, and then going to Dallas and throwing some more with all the receivers again and getting some guys there. So, but I think that's part of it. Like I said before, you only got so much time to come in and prove what you have, and I know that throughout my career I've had to compete every single year, and I want to do everything I can to give myself the best shot to go have success, and that's, I feel like, the only way you can do it.
Well, especially in their situation, because Rattler and Shough both know, okay, we have whatever it is, like 6 weeks between now and week 1. I got 6 weeks. I'm not spending 3 or 4 of those days on vacation. I'm not taking, okay, it's time. If I just had to bust ass for 6 weeks and I can try and win this starting job.
So you're not grinding Love Island like the rest of the NFL. You're dialed in.
I mean, don't get it twisted. This guy's never seen a char-grilled oyster that he didn't like. Okay, this guy's been at Drago's. He's been at all over the place. I was surprised he don't have a Food Network show at this point. Okay, he's got that going on. He's every podcast. You know, he's everywhere. So don't get it twisted.
People are grinding Love Island right now.
They're all posting about it constantly. All these, and it's every night. So I'm like, damn, you guys have the time, but
no, I don't.
Yeah, they're not in rookie quarterback battles.
I'm sure. I think my wife is, but that's usually my sleep noise. I usually fall asleep halfway into that.
It's mostly players who watch it with their wives or girlfriends, and then like a week later they're as into, they're like locked in.
Last year I was pretty glued. I'm not gonna lie.
Last season was amazing.
Yeah.
Come on, Cordell. So are you like a film head? Do you love that side of the preparation?
100%. For me, a lot of it was just that, how, like, trying to get mental reps. And I think,
well, yeah, because he was hurt. That's what I was saying. Like, it's less about on the field and it's more about off the field. It's more about just watching tape, learning offenses, learning defenses, breaking stuff down. Like, how can you contribute? What can I do? For him, for a long time, it probably was just watching film.
Another big thing coming into the NFL is with the PA and a lot of the rules, and there's a lot more time you have throughout the offseason, which is good. But
what he's talking about is that now they limit how much time you can actually be in practice or at camp or at a facility or whatever. So you do have more downtime than I think, certainly than they used to, but you do have more just personal time. And that's where in the past we've heard like Saints players were getting in trouble because they weren't logging their hours. Like they're given, iPads and stuff that the team can monitor what they're doing, and they weren't logging hours. They weren't watching tape at home. So
younger player, I feel like it's a lot that you have to take ownership of and prioritize, what you're doing, because it's not like college where you have a laid out schedule until 9 p.m. And for me, that's what I really enjoy, because I've been able to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's been awesome just doing VR, iPad stuff. I try and be in the facility as much as I can, as far as from like clicker wise, rather than the iPad. But that's been a great process so far.
How much does the VR help? Because I've heard Jane Daniels talk about it a lot. Actually, starting in LSU, he was using it a lot, and I've talked to some quarterbacks about it. But have you found that it's been really useful for you this summer?
Yeah, I think from a decision making standpoint, it's great, because you can change the tempo, speed it up, and then also just from learning the offense, which we're all kind of doing, which is, I think that's extremely helpful. And I've had various different versions of it, from the actual camera behind and watching practice film, which is good because you can kind of see techniques from DBs from a different lens. But then also just from the video game perspective, just kind of going in there, propping your feet up, letting it rip and getting those reps, which is pretty fun as well.
Have you?
No doubt. I mean, you look at across all kind of industries, like flight simulations. I mean, even there's like F1 and NASCAR teams that are solely VR. Like they practice solely in VR. They don't even get on the track. So it's. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all if it bleeds into the medical field, where all of a sudden you're doing these like simulated surgeries and whatever, and you're practicing. It's almost like actual hands-on practice. And seeing it versus reading about it or watching, whatever. So,
you gotten any time to experience New Orleans?
Oh yeah,
Jesus!
Yeah, that's been one of my favorite parts. Damn. I think 2 days after the draft, I went to New Orleans and was trying food places and doing everything. Going.
I saw a clip of you. I think you were roasting not Amon-Ra St. Brown, but his brother, who was saying that the food in New Orleans was average, and you had a joke about that. What's the best thing you've eaten there?
I would say this duck gumbo was really, really good. And then the oysters, raw and charbroiled were
okay.
Good.
I'm more of a raw kind of guy. Let me say that. I'm a purist. Okay. Born and raised in Biloxi, Mississippi, basically the seafood capital of the world. Yeah, I'm more of a raw oyster kind of hombre. You know what I'm saying? Save all the other stuff. I feel like all the other stuff is kind of like, I like it, but at that point you're just eating whatever's on top of it. Give me the raw, shucked, boom.
They're pretty fire.
Those are good New Orleans answers. I feel like it's a really big underrated part of being the Saints quarterback, because you gotta kind of show up.
You gotta try it. I mean, that's definitely something I'm not going to be eating every single day or week, because otherwise I might be the hefty lefty but hefty righty. I don't want to be that, but trying these.
You got to be careful living in New Orleans. I'm telling you that right now. It is for me, it is very difficult because I eat pretty healthy, I eat pretty clean. It is hard on certain days where it's like, man, all right, let me just cook. Let me just, bake some chicken or, some fish or whatever. And it is hard not to say, hey, let's just take walk. Let's just take a walk and go to any of the 200 restaurants around us. Which then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's buy one, get one happy hour. Oh, it's drinks. Oh, you know what? Let's get a nightcap here. When I first moved here, a lot of that. Nothing will trick you faster than the nightcap. If that every time. It's like, oh, you go have dinner, you have 3-4 drinks, then you're walking back, like, oh, let's just pop in here, have a nightcap real quick.
These places, going out to dinner with my teammates, that's been cool, just trying new spots and stuff. But you can't, the facility food there, shout out to the cook, Will and all those guys. Oh my God. It was just brand new. They reopened it, or they opened it this year, and you don't really need to leave the facility because they got a great situation there.
My last question for you is actually on behalf of my co-host. You can't see, he's a dog. His name's Letty. Your dog, Murphy, went viral during the draft for celebrating. And I believe she signed an NIL deal back in college, so Lenny's wondering how you hooked that up, because he would also like to sign some deals. So
yeah, I mean, we just, whenever we were traveling a lot, you're going to have to find somebody you trust with like a boarding place or, Rover or whatever that may be. Yeah. And we were kind of utilizing them a lot. And then we're just, hey, do you want to, strike up a deal together? And it worked out perfectly. And we're trying to get some more, hopefully.
Wow, okay.
Maybe some farmer's dog or something like that. We need to shout out to them. We need to get that going.
Look in the camera and tell them right now. I'll be like, hey.
Farmer's dog, Murphy needs some food, man. She's tired of the kibble. She tells me all the time. But it was such a cool moment, just because.
I'll tell you what, man, this is more of just a bulking conversation, but the better the dog food gets, and like farmer's dog is basically just human food, I wonder at what point it's just going to be cheaper to get dog food. Like I know all my bulkers out there who are eating ground beef, ground turkey, rice, and whatever vegetable, like the slop. It's pretty damn close to farmer's dog, right? So I wonder at what point just knock down a bag of quote unquote dog food. You know what I mean?
Unexpected completely, but it's such a great.
I mean, they're not putting red dye 40 in dog food. It's probably better for you.
Part of and piece of who we are in the journey is just having her and.
Oh my God, I'm amazed that she was that. If my dog was in the room with me and people were going nuts, it would be chaos, like absolutely insanity. I thought she was great. Well, congratulations to her. Congratulations to you as well.
I love your sign behind you. The dogs welcome, people tolerated. That's That's pretty good.
He's made it on ESPN a few times, but he hasn't gone viral like your dog. So she's a very good girl. I'm really excited for you this summer, this year. Excited to tap in. I think we're going to be down in New Orleans some point. But it was really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Love him like a brother. All right. May the best man win between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough. But I will give Tyler Shough credit. He's getting in front of the camera. So you got to do what you got to do, ladies and gentlemen. It's a grind out there. All right. God, I'm on a whole different level. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.